Hello, wonderful listeners. Welcome back to another enriching episode of We Are Listening. I'm Pulkit Garg, your host and founder of Aanya Wellness. And before we get into the topic and conversation, wishing everyone a very warm and invigorating Valentine's Day. So, listeners, today we bring to you a topic that's relevant and probably the question of the mood of the season as well: emotional intelligence and its profound impact on relationships. And today we have with us Nick, who's a certified emotional intelligence coach based in the heart of London. And our conversation today, dear listeners, you can picture this as a roadmap to better connections, understanding, and harmony. And without further ado, let's dive into the realm of improving relationships through the lens of emotional intelligence with Nick. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you, Pulkit. Hi, everyone.
Nick, while the genesis of any relation is sowed with both of emotions and feelings for each other, but as we evolve in our relationships and as we grow together, these emotions are often alienated in the relationships and the pivot over which a relationship strives. The feeling of love or being loved are often replaced with the feeling of being right or wrong, ego, and a whole long list of negative connotations. What are your thoughts on this?
It's a good point, and I'm a tutor at the School of Philosophy as well, and a quote that we often repeat is give what you need.
Mm-hmm.
So love and being loved, if I need love, it's very likely love that I need to give first. And it happens continuously in our life. If I am not happy one day and I would like to hear a good morning from a stranger, it's very likely that I will be the one to say good morning first, to receive a good morning. Similarly, in the relationships, we expect something. And not every time we are ready to give it first. So if I need love, being loved, it starts with love first. In a conversation now, talking more with cognition, being right and being wrong is not the point. As well, because it implies that my point is the correct one and yours is not. And this is not a constructive conversation at all. We are just assertively bringing our point, expecting the other to say, yes, you are right. So it doesn't bring to a productivity, to an efficiency in the conversation. Ego plays a part as well. Feeling ready to face the other person saying, I disagree with you. And so emotions now plays another vital role, because when you hear that your point is disagreed on, you might feel like it's personal. Like, why my point is not important.
Mm-hmm.
The core of a productive conversation that's going to lead then to a productive and efficient and lovely relationship is having the ability to agree that we disagree. I have my point, you have your point. I'm curious about your point. I'm trying to use your point for my growth. Because of course I wasn't thinking about this if I'm that rigid, means that I'm too stuck on my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So consciously we might use a different opinion to build our new one. And this is how we learn from everyone and everything as well. But we need to be emotionally and intellectually ready for it. We need to put our ego outside the conversation and imply that, yeah, my point is right for me. What's yours? So this I'm right is going to disappear. And we're going to be more open to listen to the other point.
When we're talking about relationships and conversations, I believe often it's important that, and as you rightly mentioned, that it's important to keep the ego outside the conversation and give that space to the other person as well, instead of just emphasizing that I am right or you are wrong on those conversations. Another point that I often follow is giving benefit of doubt to the other person. You are not aware about the emotional space or the experiences or the conditioning from which the person is coming. And this leads to my next question. How can emotional intelligence really help us in fostering empathy and understanding within relationships?
You just mentioned it. Sometimes we don't understand the emotional field that the other person is in. Again, I reiterate my philosophy. Communication starts from listening. Listening doesn't mean to the words, but listening completely means listening to the emotions of the other person. And as you said, sometimes we don't realize it, but if we do, or when we do, the communication improves. Because I can communicate in a way that you're gonna be good, you're gonna be fine listening to. I'm embracing your emotions as well as my emotions in the conversation. So there is this sense of feeling understood reciprocally. In order to improve relationships, I would say let's improve the art of listening. Listening, especially at the School of Philosophy, we define it as an art. The people that you might know or the audience might know that can really listen to you, you keep them in high regards. Like, wow, he's a listener or she's a listener.
Yeah.
He understands me. He understands me is perceived as emotionally. It's not just he understands the words, but he can go beyond the words and he can understand the emotions that I'm experiencing in a conversation or telling a story. So listening is an art that has to be mastered and practiced. And of course, in order to do so, our self, our ego is completely outside of it.
Yeah.
To be attentive to others' emotions, to be attuned with others' emotional field, we don't have to think about ourselves. We are completely in the story, like we are watching a movie. Okay. If it can be a practice for all of us, something I do on a regular basis as well. When we are listening, let's try to listen to ask a question, not to respond. So now, psychologically, the brain works with two complete different focuses. In the first one, when I'm listening to ask a question, I know that I'm gonna have to ask something, so I'm completely with the story. I'm completely listening to you, and then, of course, I'm gonna try to develop a question that makes sense. When, in contrary, I'm thinking about the response that I want to give to your point, my brain is building the response, so I'm not with you anymore. And we cannot do the two at the same time, so we are doing one or the other. If I'm listening to ask a question to your story, I'm 100% with you. It's like almost watching a movie. When we watch a movie, we are not really focused on responding. We know that the actor and the actress they're not gonna respond to us. So we are completely in the story, trying to understand the story. Let's try to do the same when we speak with our colleagues, relatives, brothers, sisters, parents, with everyone. Let's try to practice this. And this is the core of improving and mastering the art of listening.
Amazing. So I guess the roots go back to building onto the art of listening. But Nick, help me understand one thing over here. When we are talking about listening, it's an art that, okay, there are two people in a relationship, the two main primary people in the relationship, but then they're also surrounded by secondary people who are influencing factors into that relationship often, or play a very conditioning role at that time. So even if the primary two people in a relationship are able to build that bridge between them in the, in terms of listening and being empathetic towards each other, relationship often face challenges through external factors or external triggers as well at time. And how should one respond at that moment where you're not aware, like you know the person would not be behaving in such a certain manner or certain behavior, and you see a completely different picture of the person coming in front of you, and that's often because of the external factors. So how do you navigate these external factors in a relationship?
Uh, Interpretation, I think, is an important word. External factors are considered life events as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If two people are in a relationship and they are good together, they might feel a sense of unity. This sense of unity can help a lot to navigate any challenge, any adversity.
Mm-hmm.
It's like not feeling alone going to war. I can face something that is annoying externally to the couple. The couple, by the real meaning of being a couple, I sense is a power couple. They give strength to each other. And this sense of unity, like we are united, so we can face everything. Then how we face it, or how the couple face the external influences, I would say is a too broad variety of events. I should not construct a way, because I mean it might involve too many different scenarios, too many different people. It might be influences from work, from the family, from the environment as well, from society, from the religious community. But I dare to say unity, it might be the main ingredient to overcome external influences. I mean, negative influences. They can be overcome with unity.
Got it. And are there any specific emotion intelligence strategies or exercises that you find particularly impactful in improving the interpersonal relationships? So unity you just shared, but are there any specific strategies or exercises around this?
There are. They're called, or so-called, coaching tools or coaching strategies. And I mean, I would like to gift something. So we are talking about listening and how to improve and master the art of listening. In less than 1 minute, I can share levels of listening. And this is kind of curious, because when we ask to our partner or to our family, are you listening? Yeah. What level are you listening? They're like, oh, what's the main levels? Like listening is listening. No, listening can be in levels. So this model is from Stephen Covey, was an American psychologist. He passed 12 years ago. And he defined the listening in 5 different levels. So I'm sure the people that are listening now, they can, I'm going to give an example of each, and they can relate when it happens. So I'm going to start from the lower level of listening toward the highest. So the very first one is ignoring. And it happens when someone comes to you and it's like, hey, I was calling you, I was talking to you, I told you something. And you are like, no, I didn't even hear your voice. So this means level 1, ignoring the other person. Because maybe you are too involved in what you're doing. It might be gardening, it might be cooking, it might be something like that engage your brain completely. The second level is pretending to listen. And you hear the voice of the other person, and maybe you are, I don't know, watching the TV or reading something, so you physically hear someone speaking, and then you do that, You didn't listen at all. You are pretending that you were listening. And still, this is not listening. It is a very poor degree of listening. The third one is selective listening. So when this happens, when in a conversation, we just select and cut a part and we give a response on just that specific part. This means that we didn't listen to the whole conversation, but we just stopped in a part. So we're selecting a part of the conversation, and our response, our communication, of course, is based on that fraction only. And this was level 3. Level 4, here we are listening for real, is attentive listening. So this happens when I listen to the whole of your point, of your conversation. If you talk for a minute or two, before responding, I take into consideration everything you have said, in the order as well that you communicate. So I'm listening attentively to your words. And this is a good degree of listening, as well, because the communication then is based on everything that you have said. So it means that I'm truly listening.
Mm-hmm.
The level 5 is the most efficient, the most productive, and the most beautiful, personally speaking, is listening with empathy. And in brief is listening to the words and to the emotions that are in the conversation. So you're gonna listen to the change of the voice tone. You're gonna see the eyes of the person in front of you getting wider when he's expressing maybe happiness or surprise. You're gonna listen to the breathing while speaking. So you can detect emotions. And of course, in that moment, you're gonna be seen as a person that, wow, he's listening. He can understand me.
Yeah.
But why? Because you were completely with the other person. And again, ego is away. You are not thinking about you. You are completely, fully with the other person. This is something that, everybody can check or deepen researches, just typing the 5 levels of listening. And I hope that I gifted something useful, to improve communication and mastering the art of listening.
It's totally useful, Nick. There are no doubts. There are no second thoughts to this that it's not going to be useful. And, it helps me come to my next question. When you talk about the second level of listening, that's pretending. I'm not saying it often happens intentionally, but when we are in a family setting, there is a certain degree of pretentious listening happening between the family members. They are always not either attentive, or I would say the least is the empathetic level of listening that happens in a family setting. So how can emotion intelligence coaching, really help a family setting evolve together, and especially the parents?
It's a good question and very practical as well. I would say emotional intelligence coaching empowers the candidates or clients or people, let's say people, to implement practices in the family as well. So you just mentioned pretending to listen means that we are doing something else, and a family member is talking to us. A practice can be, if I'm, reading something or doing gardening, asking to the other person, can we have this conversation in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes? Because I'm not listening level 4, not level 5 to you. So I might not be communicating appropriately. And this is something that at first it sounds strange. Like your brother is talking to you and you assertively say, listen, I'm sorry, but I'm not giving you my whole attention. And I want to. Can we have this conversation as soon as I finish? So let's do one thing at a time. So we sit, we can conversate. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not having a tea, I'm not checking the phone, I'm not reading, I'm listening. And in order to listen profoundly, we need to do that task alone. So at first, in a relationship, they are like, you don't want to talk to me. No, I want to talk to you, and I want to listen to you, but now I'm doing something else. So of course, I cannot give you complete attention, and I want to give you complete attention. So we can negotiate. I finish what I'm doing. It might be 10 minutes, it might be 30 minutes. And then, of course, we can take our time so I can listen, especially when we are bringing important conversations in the family. And of course, we go through this typology of tough conversation in the family. So the importance is to give each other attention, full attention.
Amazing. So, listeners, hope this conversation helped you unlock the secrets of cultivating healthier and more meaningful relationships. Nick, do you have any thoughts before we, wrap up this episode?
I keep thinking, it's something I think every day. I'm very connected with philosophy. Every philosophy is a question or a point that every philosopher since 2,500 years is trying to delve. Know yourself. Know yourself. So understanding in what emotional field you are, I think it's gonna help you to regulate, to get awareness about your emotional state, your emotional mood, and then be useful, efficient, and productive in the relationship. I think, know yourself is something that we must keep.
That's a very valuable advice. And I would just like to add one thing from my end on that. I believe the five, levels of listening that you have just shared with us, listeners should implement them on their own self first. I believe that will help them to know themselves better. Listeners, we're more than happy to, hear your experiences. You can share them with us over comments or reach out to us on our DM. Thank you and stay tuned. We have another fascinating episode coming up with Nick. And please do stay tuned for that. Thank you.